Hi guys, welcome to Art at Home with Miss Roxanne. We are going to be working on a little watercolor painting today. So in order to do this, we've got our doodle pad or sketch pad, a cup of water, a paintbrush, and a set of watercolors. So when we're working with watercolors, the first thing that we want to do is get our paints ready. So I'm going to put the paints in view for you here. We've got our water cup and our brush, and the first thing I'm going to do is just dab my brush into the water, and then I'm going to warm up these paints by spreading a little bit of water in each color. As you're doing this, you do want to make sure that you're really getting the brush clean in between colors so that you're not bringing one color into the next little tray. We're going to be doing some painting for relaxation today. Does anybody else out there need to relax? I know it. We're in some interesting times, but we're going to make the most of it by painting a little bit from home. So I think today, for my relaxation painting, I'm going to do a little mountain scene. I'm going to start by taking some black onto my brush, and I'm going to start at the far edge of my page, and I'm just going to make a lazy little line that comes up and back down again, and get a little more paint, and come up and trail off to the side. So now I've got my mountain peaks. I'm going to rinse my brush off again and go into my blue. So I'm going to make a nice, deep, dark nighttime sky. So I got lots of blue on my paintbrush, and I'm going to start to come across the sky, staying close to the mountains. And I'm going to begin to fill this sky in. Let's see. As we're going, I think now is a good time to take a nice deep breath. Really let yourself get into that relaxation mode. There we go. I love how this blue is coming out on my page. Now you'll see I'm very careful when I go around my mountain peaks. And I'm starting with the sky because that's the part of the page that's furthest away from me. If I started with the mountains, then when I reach up to do my sky, I would be leaning into all my mountain paint. And so I'm beginning with the sky because it is the furthest away from me on the page. There we go. That is so soothing and so relaxing already. Feeling that little paintbrush go back and forth. Now I'm starting to feel like I can really enjoy my time at home. And enjoy my time with you, because we're still going to get to paint together. So what have you guys been doing at home to fill up your time? I hope lots of reading, and I hope lots of artwork, and I hope lots of relaxing, and any other thing you might enjoy. So, to make my nice deep dark nighttime sky, I've filled in with some blue, but you can see I haven't gone all the way to the top of the page. And the reason for that is that now I want to start adding some purple into my sky. So I go back into my water, get the blue off, and come back into my purple here. And now I'm going to start to add some purple into my blue. And it started to drip because I had lots and lots of water in there. So I'm going to have just a little bit less water this time. But I do want to blend that purple into my blue. So it's a good thing that there was some water that was a little bit extra. So now I'm going to bring my purple across the page, nice and slow and steady. And I'm going to work on blending it into that blue so that I don't have a sharp line of blue and then a sharp line of purple. So here we go, I'm overlapping with a little bit of the blue here and there. And I'm going to save a little bit of room way up at the tippity top of my page here because I want to add in a little bit of black. So I go from blue to purple to black, blending that black really, really well into the purple. I'm probably going to go over the black with a layer of purple so that it blends even better. I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. So here's my sky so far. You can see I've got my blue and my purple and now my line of black. So what I'm going to do to blend that black into the purple properly is I'm going to wait for it to dry just a second. And now I'm going to go back over that black with the purple paint. Again, I dipped into my water. I cleaned my brush. I'm going to do that again. And I'm coming back to my purple paint. And I'm just blending that purple into the black so I have a nice seamless fade from one color to the next. And I think I'm even going to take my purple and I'm going to bring it down over that blue so those colors really, really come together. At the end, when we're finished with our mountain part, we're going to come back up to this sky and we're even going to dot it with a few stars. So we have a lovely sky in our nice relaxation painting. So as we're going, now's a good time to chit-chat about the kind of videos that you're going to see on this channel. So a few times a week, I'm going to post new videos. And we're going to get to do all the art that we usually do when we're in school. Because we are still in school, we're just in school at home. Oh, there we go. So this is what my painting looks like now that I've gone over each color section with a layer of purple. And you can see that really brings the color together to give it a much better fade. So now I've got this white space here. This is what we call the negative space. It's where nothing has been added. And then I've got this lovely deep blue, purple, and black sky. So I'm going to give my paper a little shake and encourage that sky to dry. Give it a little shake, shake, shake. I think that's good enough. And now we're going to start in on these mountains. Now, I made a nighttime sky, which means I also need to make nighttime mountains. So I'm not going to be adding a ton of yellow and bright greens, which I would put if they were daytime mountains. So if you want to make some daytime mountains for yourself, I suggest using lots of yellows and greens in your daytime mountains. I'm going to make some nighttime ones, which means that I'm going to use more blues and greens, so it keeps the same consistently deep color. So I'm going to turn this back around. And when we're painting with watercolors, you usually want to start with your lightest color first, because you can always go over that with a darker color, but if you have a darker color first, you can't really go over it with a lighter color. So if I'm going to be using greens and blues, I would say green is my lighter color. So I'm going to begin with that. And I'm going to start to go back over my line work here, up at the top of my mountains. And up at the top of this one. And I'm going to think to myself, in this dark little mountain scene, where are the patches of light? And probably there are some stars in the sky, and there's a little bit of moonlight. And where is that shining down on the mountains? And wherever I think that moonlight is shining down, that's where I'm going to put my lightest green. So here it goes. And you can see I'm working pretty quickly between the water and the paint and the paper. And I'm doing that just to get a quick feel for where I want my colors to go. Now the nice thing about you viewing this at home is that even though I'm going pretty quickly, you can take your own pace. You can pause the video, you can rewind and go back. You can paint however you would like to paint. This is how I'm painting, and I'm glad you're sharing your time with me. There we go. So I had some green up at the top. I'm going to show you my progress so far. I had some green up at the top on the peak of my mountains. And then I decided that this was my highlight area. This is where the light is shining down on my mountains. But now I want to blend that highlight in with the outline for the peak. So I'm going back to my green, and I'm just lightly starting to fade those into each other. Meaning that I am putting some paint at the top where I had it before, and I'm continuing to work it down into the green that I selected to be my highlight, where the light is shining on my mountains. And I think right in between these mountains, we've got a little valley right there. And there's definitely some light coming down into that valley. So here we go. Blending a little green in between my two mountain peaks. So on our Art at Home YouTube channel, what we are going to be doing is all different kinds of artwork. So if you have a particular type of artwork that you would like us to work on, if there's a style of painting or drawing that you would like to do, if there's a craft you've heard of that you would like to try, you can leave your opinions about that in the comments. So if you have a special request for artwork, you can make a note about it in the comments, and maybe we'll be able to do it. All right, so I've got mostly green on my mountains now. And now I'm going to start to add in the deeper color. So I'm going to go back into that blue and decide which parts of the mountain have that much deeper tone. I cleaned my brush off really well, and I'm going back into my blue. And you can see this is just about the right amount of paint to be on it, where you can see the color on the brush, you can see the water, so you can see that that brush is quite wet, but if I go shake, 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 nothing comes off. So now I'm going to bring that color here and there into the mountains. And it's a very, very deep blue. And my mountaintops had started to dry. So I'm going to lightly whisk my brush across and blend the blue into the green. And if you can hear that little sound that the brush makes on the paper, that's just right. That's just the right touch and just the right whisking kind of motion. So I'm going back into the green. I'm just going to work on blending the blue and green together. Again, so that I have a nice fade from one color to the other and not so much a stripe of green, stripe of blue. So I want to have nice color fading and no sharp edges and stripes. Which means that I'm only taking a small section at a time. If you try to take a big bite out of this painting and do everything all at once, then you're going to have either a super duper wet page that doesn't hold the color very well, or you're going to have those very noticeable stripes of here's all my green and here's all my blue. So take it slow, take it easy. Pause the video if you want to work on just one section, and then pick it up again when you're ready to move on to the next section. I'm really liking how this nice deep blue color is turning out. That's giving me some excellent, excellent nighttime mountains. Now again, if you had wanted to do daytime mountains, instead of the deep green and deep blue, you would start with some yellow. Get those yellow highlight areas on your mountains, and then blend that in with some green. But instead, I'm beginning with green as my lightest color, and I'm blending it in with that nice deep blue. There we go. And I'm being so, so careful when I come to my edges. Now's a good time to talk about something that we call directionality in painting. That means the direction that your brush is going. You don't really want your brush to go just straight side to side or just straight up and down. Good directionality means that the movement of your brush matches the shape of the thing you are painting. So let's pause the painting for a second and talk about that. So with my painting, I've got my sky, and my sky has a side-to-side sort of motion to it because the sky has a little bit more of a flat look. But my mountains have more of a triangle shape. So that means when I'm painting my mountains, I'm not going to go straight side to side, and I'm not going to go straight up and down. What I want to do is create a little bit of movement by thinking about the way that the mountains slope and the way that they are shaped as sort of a triangle. So I'm going to demonstrate that to you without putting any paint on the brush. I'll do it just using some water so you can see what the brush direction does. So here we go. I've got this section of mountain, and in this area I sloped it slightly downwards, following the shape of the mountain. So when I follow the shape of the mountain, I'm thinking about starting at the upper edge and moving down towards the lower edge. I will put a little bit of paint on after all. When I come down to this area, I'm going to do the same, but I'm not going to keep it all exactly the same direction the whole way through because that creates that same look of banded stripes. So now I'm going to start to add in some of that deeper blue. And I'm just creating some small shapes in here to break up the overall larger shape of the mountain. And really blending that color into the green. And here, when we're talking about directionality, now I'm whisking my brush sort of upwards. There we go. And I'm going to flip this back around again. And so I'm keeping to the shape of the mountain, where sometimes I'm painting upwards and sometimes I'm painting downwards. I think we can see that on this mountain peak. I can show you a good example of that directionality that we talked about. So what I'm going to do is create more of that mountain shape. It's not an exact triangle, so I'm not going up, down, sideways to create a harsh triangle shape. I'm just sort of, hold on, there we go. I'm just sort of following the shape of this side of the mountain, and then I'm following the shape of this side of the mountain. So the angle here goes down this way, so my brush is going to go down this way. And I'm going to put a little bit of blue on to match that same angle. There we go. Blend those colors together. And a little bit of green. So I'm coming down the mountain peak. I'm going to flip that over again. And let's take a little look. So I'm coming back through it and I'm blending those colors, and I'm blending that directionality that we talked about, where I've got my brush matching the shape of my mountain. And the reason I'm doing that a second time is because when I held it up to the camera, it was a little bit tricky to actually match the shape that's on the paper while watching the mirror image of it on the camera screen. So there we go. Then I'm going to come back into my blue, and I'm going to get some blue down in the deeper valleys underneath my mountain here. So I've got lots of white space, and I'm just lightly whisking that blue across the paper. And this is a good opportunity to create little hills within your mountain. So there we go, there's a little hill shape way down at the edge. Let me turn that around and show you again. So I've created a second little hill shape down at the bottom here. And I'm going to go back in with my green and really blend that together. There it goes, so nice. What a good color combo. I hope you're enjoying your painting too, and that you're liking the way your colors are blending together. Really hold that tray steady. There we go. Now down at the bottom, even though we don't want to go straight across the whole way up the page, down at the bottom I think it will make sense to just go back and forth, nice and straight, continuing to hold that brush with sort of a light touch. And I'm going back over a lot of my blue with the green paint. I'm just coming to the edges here and getting these little detailed parts. So I'm coming right up to the edge There we go, now you can see me. So now I've got my nighttime sky and my nighttime mountains. And just like I said at the beginning, we're gonna go back in and we're gonna add a couple stars. So now I'm coming into the yellow on my tray. And I'm gonna bring some water back into it because even though we got it warmed up at the beginning by putting some water in, now's a good time to add just a little bit more. And there's a couple ways that you can do stars. So you can see I've got a good amount of yellow on my brush. One way that you can add stars is just by putting some little dots here and there. And another way that you can add stars, if you're feeling a bit more bold, you hold your brush just like this, and we're going to use our finger to flick some stars on there. So here we go. Flick. Because these are watercolor paints instead of acrylic or tempera paints, the stars are going to be much more light when we do it this way. If we were to use acrylic paints for this, or tempera paints, the paint is thicker than if it's just a watercolor, and so the stars would be more noticeable this way. But what I can do to make them a little bit more bold, you can hear me tap, tap, tapping. What I'm doing is I'm coming into my paint tray and I'm lightly tapping just the tip of the bristles so that I really get just the front loaded up with yellow. And then I'm going to come back in and lightly dot some yellow in there. Maybe not so light. I'm using a little bit more pressure than I used earlier. All right, let's see how it came out. So there's my nighttime sky and my nighttime mountains, and I put in a few stars. And that's our whole relaxation painting for today. So today we made some mountains, and I had a really nice time. I hope you had a nice time too. And I look forward to painting and drawing and making clay and doing crafts and all kinds of stuff with you some more over the next few days. Now the very last step, whenever we make a wonderful work of art, is you got to get your name on it. So I'm going to reach over here for my pen. And I'm going to find a little dry spot in the corner. Not so dry. I ripped my corner. I didn't wait long enough. But now I've got my name there. So that's the end of our first video on painting at home and painting for relaxation. So I'll be seeing you again. Bye!